Welcome, Lukas, to Metaladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Stillbirth, this new Homo Hedus, and more things related to the metal world. And we're starting with a common question. So how has the band been during these 3 years? Because you released your first album, Revive the Throne, at 2020. Now you are three years later, we have this new album. So how was the band during these years? Perhaps the composition and written process was completed during the pandemic. Oh, and this pandemic accelerated the process to compose, no?
Yeah, so thank you for having us on the on your interview show. It's a pleasure for us. And Revive the Throne is not our first album. It's the 7th album of us. So we started back in 1999. The band is already pretty old. And between Revive the Throne and Homo Deus, we also released one EP. It's Strain of Gods. And there were 6 songs on the EP. It was in 2021, November. So yeah, there was a lot of things happening. And after the EP, our bassist passed away. So we had to restructure everything in the band again, because he was also our sound engineer. And he was doing all the mixes for our albums before. And yeah, then we found a way to do it different, and we worked with Demigod Records a long time, and also for masterings of the other albums. And now we told him, yeah, you have to do the whole thing. And the writing process was like going for 1 year roundabout. It started right after the release of Strain of Gods. And yeah, then we wrote all the songs. Mainly I wrote all the songs, like every time. And now we are here.
Okay. Well, you start the band, you told me when you start, I know that the band started in 1999. So, and then your first album came in 2023. No, well, 2003. So for this aspect, so what do you decide to change the roles in your music? Because you start as a guitar, the vocals and the backing vocals at the beginning, and now you are completely focused on the vocals area.
Yeah, that was mainly a musician problem, because we couldn't find any vocalist for Stillbirth in 2014 and 2015. And so I decided to step back from the guitar, just writing all the songs and recording them. But for live, we got now guitarists, and I focused completely on the vocals. It was a little struggle in the first, because I was not used to be the front man and everything. So I had to learn everything from scratch again. But I think now it's slowly getting better and better.
Okay, and how many differences this already exists compared to the previous one, Revive the Throne? Because 3 years later, a lot of things happen.
Again, the first.
How many differences, or how many differences
okay.
that the listeners encounter in this new album compared to the previous one?
Yeah, Revive the Throne was mainly a pretty brutal album, so we tried to be as brutal as possible for our thinking, and we tried it now on the Homo Deus a little bit different, because also on the Strain of Gods we had already some stoner influences and some clean parts, and now for Homo Deus we took this a step further, and the whole songwriting is a little bit different. It's not just punching in the face, but also like a wave, you know, so you can surf the music now.
Okay.
And yeah, we tried to do it more structurally and not so like grindcore style.
Okay. With a band with more than 20 years of existence, now I saw that you start like a brutal death metal. Then you put a lot of slam into the music. Then you put a little deathcore now. So this could we say that this evolution to put slam to deathcore is it was a natural evolution in the band, or perhaps it was something thinking by your way? Because as you told me, you are the last members in the band since the beginning to now. So perhaps as you told me, it's very difficult to find musicians. So when a new musician enters to the band, they a little change the sound of the band.
Not in Stillbirth, because I'm writing all the songs. So basically, it's just my change of the sound.
Okay.
I always try to evolve a little bit. I don't want to sound like the other album before. Also on the album, I want to have a big diversity on songs, and not every song is like the same and stuff like this. So it's mainly because I try to change some things and then it sounds completely different. It's like evolving in the music. But if we would sound like we are sounding today, like I think peak, because the whole lineup and everything is now at 100%. All the boys are really motivated, and yeah, now we can start the band like really, you know. Before we always had member problems, we always had this problems and that problems, but hopefully this time's over now.
Okay, okay. Well, as you are the last member since the band since the beginning, to know how how many experience do you have? Perhaps you have one anecdote that is more important than the other anecdotes in the Stillbirth careers.
Pooah. We played over 1,000 shows around the world, I think now in 36 countries. So there were so many experiences. I could talk for 20 hours straight. We were also thinking about writing a book to the 25th anniversary of the band. So there are so many stories. We just have to get them together, and every story is funny. But I think the story which is hanging most in my head was on our USA tour in 2015, when we came to the Gut Fest in Colorado Springs, and the weed was legal, I think, like 2 or 3 months or something before, or even 1 year before, and we were expecting, because the Gut Fest was the dankest fest in the US, and we were expecting to get some good weed. And I think we smoked like 200 gram on this one day. It was just, they were throwing us with weed and everything. It was so much fun. So that's still in my head like it was yesterday.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting, because you interesting. All people know that the band started in 1999, but you are taking the first 20 years from the first album. Happy, still very proudly. So why did you decide to take the first 20 years and not the first 20 years of the band?
Please, again, the question. I
So
have to.
you told me a few seconds that you will celebrate this year 20 years of the first album, Happy Still Birthday Part, because the album was
Yeah.
in 2003, but the band starts their career in 1999. So why do you decide to take these 20 years of the first album and not the 20 years of the band?
We celebrated the 20 years of the band, and we are
Okay.
not celebrating the first album now, because we are always doing this 20, 25, 30, and so on. So every 5 years we are celebrating it. But the first album was just, you know, like a try from a band which started to play music in the basement in some woods in Germany. So it sounds really rough and everything, and I don't want to take this as a reference for Stillbirth anymore.
Okay, well, talking about the other aspect, well, we are before we just talking about other aspects, and we'll focus more into this new album, Homo Dios. So for you, well, as you know, a lot of people are growing up with the singles nowadays, because 15, 20, or 25 years old, these kind of people love to select a singles and put in the playlist in digital plans, Spotify, Tidal, etc. So, but we are returning in time. So, because on the 40s and 50s, that's the way they spread the music at that time. Now we are returning. We're in a cyclic time. So, in this aspect, if we relate with the new generation to hear, and some people, this new generation wants to hear just one song or by recommended by you are the founder, you are the only member since the beginning. Which songs will be this song to include it in the playlist for this new album?
I think it should be the sixth song, Rising from the Ashes, which will be released tomorrow. We will release tomorrow the single. And I think that's the best song of the album, because it got everything in it: the slams, the brutality, the melody, and some catchy refrain and stuff like this. So I think that's the best song from the new album.
Great. So
and also from all our songs, I would recommend this one.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Well, I'm from the 80s, so I prefer to hear all albums. So just a recommendation for the new generation, because this generation just hear Spotify.
I know, it's ridiculous.
For me too.
Yeah.
So talking now, as I said, we're talking about this from the history of the band. Well, since 1999 to your first album, there's already 4 years of difference. That's a curious thing, because Germany always deliver when a band starts in the beginning, since the 90s. The band creates in 1993, and 1 year later they have, or in the same year they have the first album. That's like weird, because Stillbirth in Germany, with a lot of festivals, with a lot of things happen into the metal world there. So it's very curious that the band delayed 4 years to release the first album. So why this happened?
It's pretty easy, because we started also playing our instruments in 1999, and it was like learning the instrument and writing the songs. And each time when you learn something new, you think, the last stuff was shit, so let's delete it and do new songs. And then the progress is going on. So it took a pretty long time. That's the only thing. Mostly the German bands got already good musicians or something like that from the music school. We started from scratch, so nobody knew even what the note is and how to play death metal.
Oh, okay. Oh, since the beginning, since your first album, and Happy Still Birthday Party, you changed completely the conception of the cover art, because at the beginning was a very initial cover art. Then you changed, but during the last years, or during the last three records, the band take the green aspect as the main color in the Stillbirth career, because I saw your videos, and always the beer, or this radioactive beer green, appear in your videos, in your cover art. So why do you decide to take this radioactive green in the career of Stillbirth?
We started with the green swim shorts on some day, because we always said we are a Hawaiian death grind band back in the days, and on all the festivals we were like running with Hawaii t-shirts and stuff like this. So the color green was always good for us, and also we are heavy weed smoker, everybody from the band, so green is the color of the choice in this time. Yeah, and it looks good. It fits to us. So mostly it's going like this. But the new video will be a little bit different. It's different color scheme and stuff like this. So we always try to change a little bit, but the main thing will be green.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, bueno, talking about the promotion of the new album, what are the future plans that the band has for this new album? You told me that you will release, in a day you will release a new album, a new video. Perhaps you will embark on a new tour in Europe, in Asia, in Indonesia, because Indonesia received very well this kind of music, brutal death metal. Or perhaps you will embark in North American tour, or who knows, you will came to the first time here and a full tour in Latin America.
That would be our dream, to come to Latin America, because everybody from our friends who went there told us, you have to go there. It's one of the best places to play death metal music. So that's all on our bucket list. Also, another US tour is on our bucket list. We are doing this year mostly Europe shows, because of the whole war and all the visa stuff is getting weird. US wanna put the prices up to the working visa and stuff like this. So we are mainly focusing on Europe this year, but for the end of the year or beginning of next year, we will go back to China, to Asia again, because of the Hammer Sonic. We got so much response now, and all the people told their promoter and the stuff around that we have to come back, and now everybody's writing us, okay, we have to do a tour. So we will focus a little bit on Asia more than on USA.
Okay. Well, as I said in the previous question, talking about other aspects in the brutal metal now, and in general, because the brutal metal, as you know, has been, I think, this This has more than 30 years of existence since the first band, Suffocation, Broken Heart, Cryptopsy, Mortician, etc., etc. Well, the list is very short at that time, so at the end of the 80s or beginnings of 90s. So what is your point of view that already there is a lot of brutal death metal bands, but they continuously preach the sound of the 90s, talking about the Deeds of Flesh, Disgorge, Dying Fetus, Devourment, and there is no a big representation in this era to say, hey, this new band is the new sound of the brutal death metal.
Yeah, I think it's shifting a little bit because all the deathcore hype around Lorna Shore and Shadows of Intent is switching into this whole music, and I think a lot of fans from this region are going to listen to death metal and brutal death metal also. Maybe not now, but maybe in the near future. So this old sound is still sick and brutal as fuck. So I think it's good that the bands are keeping going on. Like Dying Fetus also, it sounds the same on every album, but it's sick on every album, you know. So I'm happy that they keep on going, and I think that the new generation on some point will switch from all the deathcore to all the brutal death metal and also more the old stuff. I got a lot of friends which are like 20, 22 years old, and they are now totally into old school death metal like D-Side and Geist and all the bands around that. So I think that's always a trend coming and going, and I'm long in this scene and I saw a lot of trends coming and going. So I'm happy about the future no matter what happens, because we will still do brutal death metal.
Yeah. And one thing that you said about the new bands like Lorna Shore, Mental Cruelty, etc., etc., these bands took one. For me, I don't like really Lorna Shore, because really Lorna Shore is more boom, pim, pam, so that's the if you compare with a band from your country, Defeat Sanity has a lot of textures in one riff. So it's for me is Lorna Shore is more like the pumping band than they're a brutal death metal band. So that is, for me, it isn't brutal. It's more like pumping. Like I'm hearing Black Eyed Peas in the Lorna Shore's music. That's the way that I hear Lorna Shore, because it's more pumped. So into these aspects. So how is the scene now into the brutal death metal in Germany? Because one of the biggest reference from 2000s to now is Defeat Sanity, a band that makes jazz, blues into the music. Because so how is now the brutal death metal scene there? Because you have a lot of great bands now coming out as Stillbirth.
Yeah, I think it's not that the bands are not that big. Like when you compare it with Sweden, there are Amon Amarth, Arch Enemy, and bands like this. So Germany, I think our biggest band is Obscura, and in the death metal scene, yeah, and that's it then. And then only smaller bands are coming, like Cytotoxin, Stillbirth, and Mental Cruelty is not death metal, but they are coming up now. So when you compare it to the States, I think the States got much more brutal death metal bands. Also, like Mexico got much more brutal death metal bands than Germany got. So we are a little bit elite community.
Okay, so relating to the last question, the last question that I said, that Defeat Sanity is the big stones in Europe in general. If we spoke about the brutal death metal in Europe, is Defeat Sanity the first band.
But they are mostly from the US now.
Yeah,
because only one guy is living in Berlin, the rest is in the US. So
yeah, but the curious thing. So can we say that the Defeat Sanity create for the first time from the 2000s a sound in Germany? Because Defeat Sanity is only Defeat Sanity. It's not it, but they drinks from the Deeds of Flesh and Disgorge influence. But when you hear their first album to last album, it's always Defeat Sanity.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we got some other bands like this, like Despondency. It's also the other band of the vocalist, the ex-vocalist of Defeated Sanity. So they got a similar style. You also got Suffocate Bastards. They are also similar style. So I think Defeated Sanity was the first one in Germany, maybe with Necrophagist, but it's not the same kind of music. Necrophagist is more melodic. Yeah. But yeah, I think Defeated Sanity is the first one, and I think they got it from the Scourge and Gorgasm and bands like this.
Okay, as you are a fan of brutal death metal since the beginning, well, usually the American media talking about this as because they love to put four names to who creates that brutal death metal, the thrash metal, the progressive, etc., etc. They love to do. That's why exists the big four from thrash metal, big four from heavy metal, etc., etc. If we relate it to this aspect for you, which bands are the big four from the brutal death metal scene?
In general, or in my opinion?
No, in your opinion, because in general depends of in general, but we take your opinion because your opinion is very different from in general, perhaps.
Yeah, in my opinion, the big four of brutal death metal are Gorgasm, Disgorge, for sure Gutter's Secret, one of my favorite, sadly split up, and good question, and maybe Aborted, but they are pretty technical, not brutal death metal.
More than metal than.
Yeah, I think it's also then Defeated Sanity as the fourth.
Okay. So we are very close to this interview, Lucas. And for this aspect, so what is your opinion about now? The extreme music is more bigger than the 70s and 80s and even the 90s because, and if we compare the extreme music, black, death, brutal, technical, a lot of things happen now into the extreme music, but there's the only style that continue growing with newer styles, with new forms of hearing music. As you compare Cattle Decapitation with or Benighted with Morbid Angel of this side is very different, and they own their personalities around the world. So, but the curious thing is that the heavy metal, power metal, thrash metal, or speed metal are very attached or very stagnated in the old days. There's no new styles into this. Well, there's new forms.
That's right. Yeah.
So, what is your opinion about extreme metal music? Has more details, are more experimental, or have new forms to hear music?
Yeah, it's I think mainly because all the technical stuff is already in the music, and the people try to do even more than that they did in the past. So like Within Destruction, for example, they put in some trap stuff or some other beats to mix the brutal music with the hip hop music. And I think in the future, stuff like this will happen more because they try to evolve. I don't know if you know the German band Electric Callboy, Eskimo Callboy back in the days. They are also like really brutal, but on the other side they are doing this folk German folk music and stuff like this, so yeah, even this is now combined together. So I think the brutal music is now spreading around the world, and all the new generation, when you ask them, you know death metal? Yeah, sure. Back in the days when you asked them, you know death metal, they didn't know what this is, so now the brighter audience is there, so even if the people don't like it, they know it. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, Lucas, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. Yeah,
thank you very much
for this opportunity. Thanks for this opportunity to talk with you. Your last album is a great one. Perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect someday Stillbirth has a full tour here and Metallica followers?
Yeah, thank you very much for this interview. I'm very happy about it. And we can't wait to be in Latin America because that's one of my dreams since I think 15 years now. And we will try our best to get some good booker down there who can manage a lot of shows, not just like one country, so we can do a whole tour. We always like it to do more the whole tour than instead of just one country or stuff like this. So when we are coming, then it will be heavy. You can expect some heavy shit coming then.
Great.
Thank you very much for this.